When the sack was open, Shalewa's fear intensified as two massive pythons came out of it. Her initial excitement turned to panic. She had no idea what was about to happen, and she felt trapped in a dangerous situation. The fear of what they might do to her was consuming her. She tried to stay calm, but her body was shaking with anxiety. Femi and the white guy exchanged glances, seemingly amused by her fear. "Don't worry, Shalewa," Femi said with a sinister smile. "It is all part of the ritual." "Ritual? What do you mean by that?" "I thought you said I would sleep with you and your friend," Shalewa asked. "You are not sleeping with me nor my friend. You are having the threesome with this python." Shalewa felt a surge of panic. She realized that she had been deceived and was now in a situation she couldn't handle. "I don't want to be part of this," she said, her voice trembling. The white man who had been silent finally spoke. "Just follow instruction and everything will be fine." Shalewa was on the verge of tears. She had no idea what type of ritual they were planning. Her heart was pounding with anxiety. This wasn't what she had agreed to do. Her mind raced, but she reminded herself to stay calm. She couldn't show she was scared. If she did, there was no telling how the night would end. "Femi, this is not what we agreed on." Shalewa's voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. "You told me I was coming here to have a threesome with your friend. How come there is a python in your living room? Are pythons your friends now?" She was half joking, but the panic in her tone was unmistakable. Femi shrugged nonchalantly, avoiding eye contact. "If I had told you everything, would you have come?" he asked, his tone casual, as though a python lounging in his house was no big deal. Shalewa clenched her fists. "Look, I would do it though, but 1.5 million is too small for this madness. If I am risking my life, it has to be worth it. It has to be more than that." Femi looked at her, clearly interested. "How much then?" he asked. 5 million naira, Shalewa said. "That is the least I can accept." Femi nodded. After a moment of thought, "Fine, I will send it to you." Shalewa's mind was spinning, but she knew she had to think fast. She needed time. "Okay, but if I'm going to do this, I need something to calm my nerves. I need to be high on something." Femi looked at her, his eyes calculating. "What do you want?" he asked. "I don't know," Shalewa replied. "If you say so, I have coke to offer," Femi replied. "Okay," she agreed, pretending to be casual about it. "I don't have it here though," Femi said, glancing at his friend, a white man who had been silent the entire time. "We will need to go out and get it." Femi and his friend left, locking the door behind them. The moment they were gone, Shalewa escalated sharply. Her fear bubbled to the surface. She whispered a prayer. "God, if you get me out of this situation, I swear with my life, I will serve you for the rest of my life." She quickly began to search for a way out. The elevator they used earlier was locked, and she had no idea how to operate it. The mansion was huge, like one of those places you see in movies, and she could easily get lost in it. Frantically, she tried the doors in the living room, and they were all locked. She rushed to the kitchen and found the door slightly open. Just as she was about to make her escape, she saw Femi's car driving in. Her heart sank into her stomach. "Is this how I'm going to die?" she whispered to herself, panic gripping her chest. She quickly pulled herself together as Femi stepped out of the car. "Shalewa, why are you outside?" he asked, narrowing his eyes at her. Shalewa forced a smile. "I got bored in the room, so I decided to look around your beautiful house." Femi studied her for a moment before nodding. "Let's go back inside," he said, gesturing for her to follow him. As they walked, Shalewa kept her mind sharp, trying to buy more time. "Femi, how come you have such a big house and no wife?" she asked, attempting to sound casual. "That is none of your business," Femi said. "Well, I know it's not my business, but I'm just being curious. It is not every day you see a man with a mansion this big and no one to share it with. After a moment, Femi decided to talk. I have a family, but they don't stay in Nigeria. They live in Florida, he said. When Femi and Shalewa got upstairs, they entered a room Femi called the Highness Room. It was unlike anything Shalewa had ever seen. There was a small greenhouse where he grew weed. There were different types of tobacco in it and all kinds of highness material you could ever think of. Femi casually offered her the cocaine he had picked up. Look at it here, he said, setting up lines for both of them. Shalewa hesitated for a split second before snorting the line he gave her. She had never done drugs before, but right now, survival was her only priority. As they sat down drinking wine, Femi suddenly became more personal. You know, I have never felt this way about any girl, he said softly. Most of the girls who come here, they don't mean anything to me. But you, Shalewa, you are different. Ever since we have been having conversation this night, I felt something different. I want you to fulfill my fantasies. Shalewa blinked, trying to mask her discomfort. What kind of fantasies? What do you mean by that? Well, Shalewa, I want to be your slave, Femi whispered, his voice full of desire. I want you to degrade me. Do whatever you want to me. Shalewa's mind raced as she nodded slowly, playing along. Okay, Femi, if that's what you want. But in her mind, she was already planning her next move, knowing she had to escape this nightmare before it was too late. Femi took her to another room. Shalewa couldn't believe her eyes as she stood in Femi's pleasure room. It was unlike anything she had ever imagined. The room was filled with all sorts of toys and strange equipments, things she had only heard about in whispers or seen in dangerous movies. Her heart raced as Femi disappeared into the adjoining bathroom, leaving her to take it all in. When he returned, she was even more shocked. He was changed into some kind of costume, a strange cosplay outfit. He dropped on his knee in a humiliating pose. He gave her a big toy prick, one that was clearly not for any innocent play. Here, Femi said casually, use it on me. Shalewa froze. What? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Her confusion was evident. Apply this. Femi handed her a bottle of lubricant. Apply it on me, then you use it on me. You can flog me, put candle wax on me, or even light fire. Do whatever you want to me. I am your slave, he said, as if it was a normal thing. Shalewa wanted to back out immediately, but Femi's eyes was calm, almost pleading against her better judgment. She found herself going along with it. She applied the lubricant and did what he asked her to do. Her heart was heavy with disgust and disbelief. After that, Femi was filled with satisfaction. I will take you to another room. There is something I want to show you. He led her to what looks like a conference room. Shalewa hesitated at the door. Her legs felt weak, but Femi dragged her forward. He gave her a mask. Wear this, he instructed. Everyone inside is wearing one. The room was dimly lit. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she saw men seated on either side of a large bed. On the bed, two women were tied down, their legs spread wide. To her horror, there were pythons on the bed, playing with the girls, and a foreign man standing nearby, seemingly in charge of the snakes. The men were 10 in number. They were drinking, laughing as they watched the scene unfolding before them. They were clearly entertained by it. Shalewa felt sick. The snake crawled over the women, licking their bodies, while the women's eyes remained shut. It was something out of a nightmare, and she was frozen in shock. Femi leaned in, whispering, "Don't panic, just act like everything is fine." Shalewa's mind raced. God, please, if you should save me from this nightmare, I swear, I will never come close to this kind of a thing again. The events happened till daybreak. Shalewa couldn't stop the stream of thoughts running through her mind. How did she get herself into this mess? How did things escalate so quickly from casual outing to this? As the sun rose, Femi finally said, "Let me drop you off." Shalewa couldn't get out of that house fast enough. She got into Femi's car, directing him to an estate far from her home. There was no way she wanted him to know where she lived. She couldn't take that risk again. When they arrived, she stepped out of the car, thanking her stars that the nightmare was over. As soon as Femi drove off, she blocked his number. She didn't want any more calls or messages from him. She didn't want to hear his voice or ever see his face. As Shalewa walked home, she couldn't shake off the feeling of what she had just experienced. Her heart was heavy with regret. How did she even end up in such a place with someone like Femi? She thought about how flashy he seemed when they first met, always spending money, living in a big house, and driving expensive cars. She thought he was just one of those rich guys in Lagos, but now she knew better. Behind all the wealth was something dark, something more terrifying. She didn't tell anybody about what had happened, not even her close friend Adako, who would believe her anyway. And even if they did, she didn't want to be judged. But deep down, she knew she had to change her ways. This was a warning. She was lucky she got out unharmed, but what if next time she wasn't so lucky? A few days later, she sat in her room scrolling through Instagram. There was a pictures of girls she knew from school, living their soft life. They were always on vacation, wearing the latest clothes and going to hottest parties. Before, she would have envied them, wondering how they got their money. But now, she knew the truth. Not all that glitters was good. Shalewa sighed, remembering Femi's word. He had told her that the girls he brought into his group were paid 2 million naira per section, twice a month. That is 4 million naira in a month. Femi had said like it was no big deal. No wonder these girls live lavishly. But now, Shalewa knew the price they paid for that money. They did all those fetish things to please politicians and big men who found pleasure in it. Shalewa knew the price they paid for that money, and it wasn't something she was willing to sacrifice anymore. She thought back to her family, especially her father, Pastor Adeboyega. If only he knew the kind of crowd she had been hanging around with, the kind of dangerous games she was playing. She had strayed so far from the values they had raised her with. But one thing was certain, she wasn't going to let herself fall into that trap again. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Adako. "Babe, we are going to the party this weekend though. I hear big boys are going to be there, and you need to be there." Shalewa stared at the message for a moment. Normally, she would have jumped at the idea, excited to meet guys like Femi, who had money to spend, but not anymore. She replied to Adako's message, "I am not going. You can go and have fun." She dropped her phone on the bed and laid back, her mind replaying the events at Femi's house. The highness room, the pleasure room, the snacks, the marks, and the men watching. It was all too much. She was traumatized, and she said, "God saved me." She whispered to herself, "I won't go back to that life." From that day on, Shalewa decided to focus on her nursing studies. She stayed away from things that could lead her down a dark path again. She wasn't going to let herself be trapped by the promise of fast money and luxury. It wasn't worth it at all. The lesson of this story was clear. Not everything that looked good on the outside is as it seems. Many are paying a price behind closed doors that no one can imagine. And Shalewa, thankfully, had gotten out before it was too late. But there was another lesson Shalewa learned, one even deeper. Why she had been saved this time. Not everybody might be lucky. She had prayed silently in her heart when things got scary, and she believed her prayer was what saved her. But she knew that it wasn't just about praying. It was also about making the right decision and being careful. Just because I was safe doesn't mean that the next person might be lucky, she thought. Bad friends like Atako had led her down this path, and she was lucky to get out, but others might not have the chance. It was a reminder to be cautious, to stay away from dangerous influences. Shalewa realized that all the money and flashy lifestyle some people envied came with a heavy price, one she was no longer willing to pay. All that glitters isn't good, she reminded herself, and the things we envy in others, we don't know what they had to go through to get them. From that day forward, Shalewa vowed to be more careful, to choose her friends wisely, and to always remember that not everyone that looked good was worth having. After all, she had learned the hard way and hoped others wouldn't have to go through the same thing she went through. This is the end of our story. Please, I would like you to drop your thoughts about this story in the comment section. And please, if you like this story, hit the like button, subscribe. Do not forget to share this story to your family and loved ones. See you in the next story. Bye.